Welcome back to the Heal with God podcast. Each week we explore a new theme for healing. I'm your host, Heather O'Brien, and today we're going to be talking about guilt, people pleasing, and learning to discern God's voice so that you can actually create a life that you love. Let's be real, you've been trying to be the good girl, say yes when you want to say no, and you carry all the guilt like it's holy. But what if the guilt isn't from God? What if the voice in your head isn't His at all? Today, we're joined by my guest, Stephanie May Wilson, the author of Create a Life You Love. And she is bringing so much freedom and clarity. She calls out the cultural pressures that whisper, you should, and while reminding us that God's voice never manipulates or condemns, it frees. So you're going to learn how to pivot, how to reflect honesty, and how to finally release the rules that never come from heaven. So let me ask you, what if peace means disappointing people? And what if discernment begins with a deep breath and a question? What do I want, God? Hey, warrior, welcome to Heal with God. This is a podcast for Christians who love Jesus, but feel emotionally wrecked, spiritually stuck, and wondering if God hit the mute button on their life. I'm Heather O'Brien, a licensed minister, prayer partner, and a woman who's cried in her Bible more than once. I created the free 7-day mental makeover challenge to help you hear God's voice and finally move forward. You'll find it linked below in the show notes. Otherwise, let's dive in because healing with God is possible for you too. All right, honey, here's the tea. If you're stuck in your head thinking healing has to be hard, I need you to hear me. It doesn't. The Heal with God signature program gives you everything that you need to take the next step. Short videos because you're not trying to watch a seminary lecture, printable healing prompts, and daily text coaching to help keep you moving when you want to give up. And yes, it's just $23 a month. That's less than a Target run, and you still save up for the one-on-one prophetic healing sessions with me when you're ready to go deeper. Now, let's get back to the message because you and Jesus, you have more ground to cover. I'm so excited to share with you today my new friend, Stephanie Wilson. Hey, Stephanie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah. So Stephanie is a new friend. She has this book, Create a Life You Love.
Yep.
And I'm so obsessed with it. And there's this one phrase that was really standing out to me about the everything era. And I'm like, oh, this sounds a little bit like people pleasing, guilt trips, and things. Is that what you meant when you use the word everything era?
Yeah, so the everything era is this season of life that I have identified that really doesn't have a name. And the time period is like 25-ish to 35-ish, generally, plus or minus. But the thing that's so interesting about that era is that that's when the majority, for the majority of women, that's when the majority of our biggest life decisions are made. That's when we decide, for the majority of women, who do I want to spend my life with? And like, are we going to get married? Are we going to do this thing? That's when some giant moves are made to different cities. That's a lot of times when people buy houses and like plant roots. That's when people are really making big decisions and taking off in their careers. And that's like a really peak time when we need to decide, do we want to have kids or not? Is parenting or parenthood a journey that I'm going to walk towards? And not only are we making these big decisions during these years, but they all happen and kind of crescendo all at the same time.
Mm.
I had a friend who called it the cosmic double booking of this season of our life. And like, if that isn't the truth, like, couldn't they happen one right after another? Like, couldn't you
I
have
love
your like
that.
mom decade and then your career decade and then your like friends decade, like just separate them out. But they really crescendo all at the same time, leaving us putting together this wild Tetris puzzle of our lives and trying to figure out how it all fits together. And so, really, so the trickiest thing about all of that, as if that weren't enough, is that we're doing this all in front of an audience.
Mm.
And as women, we know no matter who you are or where you come from or who your parents are or what zip code you live in, you are living under a set of expectations of what it means to be a good woman. And
Mm.
those are different depending on those things, but there's a code, there's a rule book that we are supposed to follow. And, a lot of times it's what our mom did, or it's we want to do what our mom didn't do. But we all are kind of trying to make these decisions with this set of rules whispering in our ear or shouting in our ear. And then we have this whole audience of people telling us what we should be doing and that we're doing it wrong and we need to be doing it differently. And I mean, women for all of time have had so many people with this men primarily, with their hands in our lives,
Yeah.
saying this is what a woman should be, this is what a woman should do. And again, that's changed throughout the years, but like we are doing all of this, making these massive life decisions that are oftentimes generationally significant in front of an audience that is incredibly loud and incredibly opinionated. And so my heart in this book and giving a name to the everything era is to go, hey, you're not making this up. You're not alone. Like this is actually happening and actually a thing. Let's talk about this so that you know you're not alone. And then here are some tools to start quieting some of the outside voices so that you can actually figure out what kind of life you want to live.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I was going to add is just, I do talk in this book a lot about that age range, 25 to 35, but like so much of the quieting outside voices and figuring out what you want and creating a life you love is lifelong. And
Yeah.
so no matter where, like what decisions you're making or what transitions you're going through, whoever's listening, the stuff that we talk about in here is so for you. You might not feel like you're in your everything era anymore or yet, but the creating a life you love is just this journey that we all get to and have to like go down.
Yeah. Oh, well, you said that so beautifully. So what's really standing out to me is we're listening to these outside voices and they're other people's expectations almost. Not
Mhm.
even our hopes and dreams. It's like our hopes and dreams are all meshed together and our own expectations, maybe even, and other people's outside expectations. Can you remember a time, maybe in your past, where you had to kind of silence the noise or you realized you were living someone else's idea of right?
Yes. I mean, a million times. I am a firstborn people pleaser, type A personality with anxiety. Like, I get this life of looking around and trying to make sure I'm doing things right. And, I think that thankfully I haven't walked too far down the road of being like, okay, no, I really created this whole life based on what someone else wanted for me, but I've gotten really close.
Mm,
A specific example. So and that's made like my biggest life decisions really difficult because I feel like if I do this, it has to look this way. There's not room for variation. And so one way that this has shown up in my life is when it came to the idea of having kids.
mhm.
And I always thought I would want to have kids at some point. I just thought that at some point I would arrive at this day where this like deep desire to have kids would show up in my life. And I got pretty far into life and then marriage, farther than I thought I was going to, and was like, this has not shown up yet. Like
Oh,
I still feel like maybe at some point I want to have kids, but like I it doesn't feel like I'm ready yet or I'm there yet. And I had to really do some work on figuring out, does that mean that I don't want to be a mom? I need to make a decision about this because one of the things we talk about in the book is that if you don't make decisions, life and time makes them for you.
yeah.
And that's specifically true when it comes to having kids. Like if I hemmed and hawed about that decision for, another 10 years, like I would have lost my chance. So I had to get really clear on like what do I want and why do I want it or why do I not want it? And it turned out that a lot of the things that were holding me back from being able to even want to be a mom were these ideas of how it was going to have to be. I had lots of people tell me that we better travel now because once you have
Mhm.
kids, you won't be able to.
Yeah,
And
I've
I
heard
mean, that refrain, it's like, is that on t-shirts? Like, why? So many people say that. And for
that.
me, travel has always been a really important part of like who I am. Like I would forsake almost everything in my life, like in front of my passport. It like truly, I'm not a
Wow.
shopper. I'm not
Yeah,
a concert person. Like there's so many things that I'm like, I would not do that
right.
so that I could travel. And so
So,
this idea that like if you have kids, you're shutting that part of your life off was so paralyzing to me. And I had to like eventually, and again, what we talk about in the book is I had a friend tell me, you get to decide.
mm,
And that phrase I just had never considered before. It had never occurred to me that like what we're talking about here isn't black or white or right or wrong, that it could be somewhere in between.
oh, I
And
love that.
and so that's like it was that gave me the permission and the freedom to make this look like me. And so I don't know if you know this, but
Yeah.
I'm an American. I've lived my whole life in the US, but almost a year ago, we moved our little family to Spain for a
Yeah.
season. And so like my kids are in Spanish school right now. Like we are proof that kids can travel.
Yeah.
And I just needed that to be
Yeah.
able to like figure out what actually I wanted instead of what expectations I thought were waiting for me if I made this decision.
So would you say that it was kind of like this guilt trip from others with the t-shirt logo saying you can't travel when you have kids? Like I feel like sometimes people make guilt this holy thing, but what if guilt is really just fear wearing a church dress?
That's good. That's good. I
It,
don't think that, especially in faith communities, we have this idea that there's a right and a wrong. Sometimes, yes, but I feel like on the very fringes of the options.
yeah,
Like, I feel like you can get pretty far before you get into right and wrong. So much of life is lived in the middle. And I think that depending on your faith community, people have this idea of what exactly right looks like, what a good mom looks like or a good
yeah, yeah,
woman looks like. But it's so much of that is a matter of personality and culture and preference.
yeah.
My husband has this phrase that he says a lot. He says, "Don't moralize your preferences."
That's it.
And
That's what I
like,
was just sitting here thinking, that we're
yes,
turning this into a moral issue when it's
mm-hmm,
not. It's
mm-hmm,
actually a preference.
yeah,
And we really have to, I love that your friend spoke that wisdom into you that what you can do what you want. Like, what do you want in all of
right,
this? And so you wanted to
yeah.
go to Spain. Tell us just a little bit about that. You like drop that nugget. I'm like, tell me more. What made you want, okay, you love traveling, but you're not traveling, you're living in a
Mm-hmm,
different country. So
yeah.
help us understand, like, how did you, I bet there was a lot of noises of other voices telling you you're crazy. This is going to be so hard.
Mm-hmm.
How did you fight that people pleasing? I don't know if you have that. I'm sure you do. In that firstborn people pleasing desire inside of you that's like, I want to make everyone happy, but how do you silence those noises whenever you really want to people please, but you also want to do what you want to do?
Yeah. Well, so Spain has been just like a core piece of who I am for my whole life. I started learning Spanish at 10 years old, and I had just wonderful Spanish teachers my whole life, just all the way through school. And not only did they teach me the language, but they taught me like to love the culture. Specifically, they would talk a lot about Spain, but we talked about a lot of Spanish speaking countries. And so I feel like while I have absolutely no Spanish or Mexican or Costa Rican or anything blood in me, like I do in my heart.
Yes, yeah.
And
Well,
so
for those who can't see you right now, I'm looking at you. You're very white skinned, very pale,
very
blonde
pale.
hair,
Uh-huh.
probably blue eyes, I think.
Yes. I
Yeah.
don't fit
Okay.
in many places. So but I do like it's like that's in my heart. I was exposed to so many pieces of Spanish, specifically Spanish culture so early that it just feels so homey to me.
Mm.
I had the opportunity to study abroad in college in Spain, and I loved it so much that I just said I have to come back and I really want to come back with my family. And
Oh,
I was so grateful for the opportunity to learn Spanish so young. And I actually wished I could have learned more of it younger, that I always said, if I have kids ever, I want them
oh,
to learn Spanish. And so this was just this thing that I would talk about and I really wanted to do. But when it actually came time to make the decision, it was sort of an unconventional parenting choice.
yes,
We
for sure.
having 2 4-year-olds, like we've been navigating the landscape of childcare in the US for the last 4 years and trying to figure out the math of like, does one of us work? Do both of us
Yes.
work? Does one of us quit? How does the math work out? And we're looking at yet another year of like just wildly expensive childcare going, is there any other way
Yeah.
to do this?
Yeah.
And so that's when all of a sudden this like long, far off, dreamy idea of moving to Spain like came back up. We're like, well, let's look at some of the math of this.
Huh.
And we realized that we would actually like our kids can go to school here and it does not cost $30,000 a year or $40,000 a year. And we're like, oh my gosh, like, could we actually be saving money by moving?
Wow.
And actually, could we be fulfilling this lifelong dream of having my kids learn Spanish in a time where their brains are the most
Yes.
receptive to it? Like, yeah. And
Wow.
so it was not only just something that I really wanted to do, but everyone says that like this is the progression that you take as a family and with young kids. And we just totally turned it on its head because
You really
actually
did.
there was plan cue was a lot better for us
Yeah.
than plan A, B,
Yeah.
C.
So, okay, was it difficult to silence the noise of other voices, or did you have so many people in your inner circle that already knew your heart's desires and they were just for you all the way?
We haven't had too many naysayers because I think that my myself and my husband, like this was not off brand for us to do something like
Okay.
this. People were like, well, of course you would do this. So
Made
we had
sense
a lot
for
of
your
that. People,
personality.
yeah, we had a lot of people who knew our hearts. But one of the hardest things was telling the grandparents, telling both my parents and Carl's parents, not because we were leaving, because again, they would expect that from us, but because this time we were taking their grandkids.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Um,
hard.
and so it's not that we necessarily had naysayers. We, again, have really supportive
Yeah.
people. We didn't have anyone say, like, this is a really bad idea. But we did have, like, I mean, we had sad people,
I
and
gotcha.
we still do. And so there's
That,
absolutely guilt in that.
yeah, for sure. There definitely is. So that's kind of like, how do you, I, I kind of want to bring this back to like, did you discern the voice of the Lord that this was not just like a good heart desire, but maybe his heart's desire for you to go do this thing? Like, was there a marrying of the two? Like, this is actually your steps are ordered of the Lord and you are supposed to do this. Did you have that kind of, was that part of your thought process at all? And then maybe that helped you get over the fact that you were making people sad in your process of following the Lord?
In my specific life with God in the last handful of years, he's been, at least I've discerned, pretty open handed with me. And, it is my personality, speaking of people pleasing, God pleasing, to want to be like, okay, break this down for me like a GPS.
Yes,
Like, I
exactly.
don't want to reroute. I want to get from A to B as quickly as possible in exactly the way you want,
Right.
because that feels like it's this insurance policy against pain and mistakes and all these things. And at least for me, like, I'm not a theologian, I'm not a pastor, I can only speak for myself. I don't feel like God works like that. Like, he's not
Yeah.
that specific with me. Sometimes he is. Sometimes he
Sometimes
is.
it's like it's just different times, right? It's just not all the time.
It's not all the time. And I think in the same way as there being, like, sometimes there's wrong, like there's clear wrong. Like, let's
Yes.
not
Okay.
be evil. Okay,
Right.
let's not kill anybody. Like, wrong.
Right.
But so much of the rest of it is this, well, like, what is your preference? Like, you have this beautiful life that I've given you, and I'm still going to love you and use you, whether you are in
Mhm.
Tennessee or Colorado or Indiana or Spain. Like, where do you want to be?
Right.
I don't really care.
Right.
I feel like that's more what I've been discerning, which, again, you know what? I think that's harder. Like, I would honestly prefer the GPS. I would honestly
Wouldn't
prefer
we
the
all though,
GPS.
right? The GPS is so nice, but sometimes, okay, what I found in my GPS is I actually know the end destination, but I don't know how to get there.
Mm.
I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
Where's A, God? Like, I have no idea where A is."
Yes.
And so we keep rerouting back to let's find A, let's find point A.
Yeah.
Well, so I love how you put that. It's all about like maybe you just have to listen to your preferences and not the guilt that really I feel like it screams pretty loud for me, the guilt and the people pleasing. And I really get down to the point of discerning, is this guilt or is this God?
Mm.
Is this because they're not the same, right? Guilt is
Mm-hmm.
like freeing. It leads you out of fear. It leads you out of the evil that we're talking about. It leads you out of that. And so if this isn't evil and it's a preference, then maybe it is spirit led.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how would you like help direct the listener today, like who feels like, okay, they're living halfway through their life and it's not necessarily the life that they wanted. And they want to live the life that they love. They want to create a life that they love, but they feel disconnected from maybe the decisions that they've made. It's like almost like, how do I pivot now? Like you pivoted all the way to Spain.
Mm-hmm.
How could you encourage our listeners to say, okay, you can pivot and maybe like one little step?
Yeah. So I would say two things. One, okay, I'm going to say three things, but I'm going to make them
Okay.
fast. the first thing is, I think a lot of times we don't actually know how we got to where we are.
Mm.
And so taking some time to journal, pray, reflect, like, what about where am I in my life? Do an inventory. What do I like about it? What do I not like about it? Like, we just don't often give ourselves that space to be honest. So
Oh,
start there.
yeah.
The second thing is making a list of the things that you think you're supposed to do, both in the present, but also in the past. Like, well, okay, I did this because that's what good women do.
Mm.
And then we're going to ask, says who?
Yes.
Says who?
Come on.
Because a lot of times, like, we're making some of the decisions that we're making maybe based on, like, my mother said this to me over
Yes.
and over growing up, that this is right and this is wrong.
Yeah.
That's one thing.
Yeah.
But for others of us, we're like, I don't know. I just kind of heard it growing up from somewhere.
Right.
But like, we need to get specific on where did this come from
Yeah.
so that we can ask, is this a person that I have given the authority to run my life?
Yeah.
So that's step two.
Yeah.
And then step three is we need to gather some inspiration. And I think a lot of times the reason, like, it feels so, I'm hoping that most of your listeners have seen this movie, but Runaway Bride with Julia
Yeah.
Roberts,
Yes.
and how she changes her egg preference for breakfast to go
Yes.
along with the guy that she's currently
Right.
engaged to. And then at the very end, Richard Gere, who ends up being the actual one, puts a whole table full of eggs in front of her that are all different kinds.
Mhm.
And she gets to try them all and go, okay, what do I actually like?
Yes. Yeah.
And I think so many of us are sitting here eating scrambled eggs because that's what we've been told we should like. And it's really hard to imagine something else if we don't have the option in front of
Right.
us. And so something that I've started doing in the last, handful of years is looking at other people's lives, not from a comparison point of view,
Uh-huh.
but just like, let me get some other options on the multiple
Uh,
choice test.
yes.
Like, what could, like, let's get as wild as possible. What could this look like?
Yes.
Not because you're going to copy that, but just to, one, break open your idea of
Yes.
what this is supposed to look like, and then give you a few more, like, I'm mixing 1,000 metaphors, but like putting a couple more colors of crayons in your box
Yeah.
so that you can color something that actually fits you instead of just the black or white that you've been living with for so
I
long.
love this so much. Like as you're talking, I'm remembering my actual life. When I went through an identity crisis, that's what I call it.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the everything era. I was in my 20s, maybe 30s, late 20s, right? So you have the time frame just right. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember thinking, okay, I live in South and my husband likes unsweet tea. I
Okay.
don't. Okay. I also don't like sugar tea because it makes me feel bad. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I like the taste, but it just makes me feel bad. So I don't have a preference for it, but I like sweetened tea with the other kind of sweeteners.
Okay.
And I say all that to say every day he wanted me to tea, boil these tea bags and make unsweetened tea. And I just got to this point, I was in my identity crisis. This is so ridiculous how this is like a pivotal moment in my life of I said, I don't want to make tea every day of my life. I don't know why it was such a big deal, but I'm like, I don't want tea, but yet I'm making it for him and I'm not even making myself another option.
Mm-hmm.
Like I wasn't making my own, like you said, I didn't have the tray of different kinds of eggs in front of me until I remember like I was literally walking outside taking the trash out, having this thought. That's how pivotal of a moment it was. I'm like, I don't want to make tea every day, but also I don't even know what I would want. And I had to have that thought of like, Heather, what do you want to drink? And I
Yeah.
know that sounds so minimal, but that was like, that
Mm-hmm.
was real life. Like I never
Mm-hmm.
had considered what I want because, and it's not because he was so mean or anything like that. It was just like his opinion was really loud and I had zero opinion.
Yes. Well, and the
That's it.
thing that's so crazy is, like, and this may not have been the case with the tea, because he may really have been like, no, it means so much to me that you make me tea every day. But sometimes we're doing things that we really, really don't want to do to make someone else happy. Like, what if he was like, you know what? I don't really like tea either. Or
Uh-huh.
like, you know what? I actually like tea that you get from the grocery store out of the carton
Uh-huh.
instead. Like, or I like it, but it doesn't mean that much to me to make you miserable. Like, sometimes we rearrange our whole lives to make someone happy, and they actually didn't care that much to begin with.
Right, right. And surely, like I remember him saying, like, I'm never doing anything ever to make you mad, to be mean to you. but it was all in my head, right? We get so in our head of this people pleasing mentality that it's like, I'm going to serve. And that's where it go back to like, it's almost like it's godly to like lay
Mhm.
down our desires and not have our own hopes and dreams. Wow. This has been really eye-opening. I'm so like I can't even believe that memory came back up. I'm like, okay, yeah. I was in the everything era and I totally was people pleasing and not having an opinion. Ultimately, it comes down to that. Like I didn't even know I had a preference. I didn't know I had an opinion. I didn't know what it was. If you asked me, I'd be like, I don't know. And it took like a journey of learning and discovering who I was. And I love the 3 points that you made. Can you remember them to reiterate them for us one more
Yeah,
time?
yeah, yeah. So the first one would be to do an inventory of your life. Like, where are you? Maybe how'd you get here? What's going well? What's not going so well? What doesn't look like you wanted it to, or like you thought it would by now? And then the second step is what are some of the shoulds that you're living with? Some of the things that you either think now or have always thought, this is what I should be doing, or what good women should do, or what moms do, or what it looks like to be this. Like, what are some of those rules? And then pause there for a second. Says who?
Yeah.
Who said that? Like, where did you get that idea? And make yourself like give it a face because then you can see, like, oh, wow, I have been living according to the rules of some lady that didn't even know my name. Like, how crazy is that?
Mhm.
And so then the last step is to start gathering some inspiration. Start go on a hunt for different ways to do all kinds of pieces of life, just people doing things in all kinds of different ways. Because when you start to open your mind to these things, it puts more colors of crayons in your box that you can color with. And then it also shows you, like, no, really, these are just preferences.
Yeah.
Like, there's really not one way to build a beautiful life. You can do this in a bunch of different ways. And it
Oh,
gives you some colors to start to experiment with.
yes. I love this so much. Thank you so much, Stephanie. Well, we just have to stop baptizing guilt as discernment and this
Mhm.
people-pleasing thing as God's voice. God's voice doesn't shame, it doesn't convict, it doesn't control, it doesn't manipulate. If he does convict us, it's actually freeing. It's to free us, and it does not condemn us, especially does not condemn us to paralyze us. And so if you're living under the pressure to perform, to be the good girl, I know that was me, hands raised, or to keep everyone happy, he's not in that. God, that's not God. And so the only way to I really if the, okay, think about this for just a minute. If the only way to have peace is to disappoint people, we should really let peace win. We should really let peace win because that's God. Letting people win is not it's not from God. It's fear of man. So, Stephanie, I'm so thankful that you gave us all these gold nuggets today to live by and to search out what is it that we want? What is it that we need to get free of? All of this supposed tos and shoulds. I told my son the other day, you're shoulding all over yourself.
Mhm. It's
He's
the funniest thing. I
like,
love it so much.
And so yeah, quit shooting all over yourself, warrior. And Stephanie, tell us where they can find the book, the name of the book, and obviously the name of your podcast, because that's where I found you. And I'm just in love with your podcast over there.
That's so kind. I really appreciate that. I love the podcast. I love the podcast. So it's called Girls Night with Stephanie May Wilson, and you can find it just absolutely anywhere. And my book is called Create a Life You Love. It's this outline of it's like a silhouette of a woman made out of flowers. It's so beautiful. It's bright yellow. You can also find that, like, I think pretty much anywhere as well. And then, my sort of central hub for everything that I'm working on these days and always is my website, stephaniemaywilson.com. And that's sort of like the train depot. Like, everything kind of comes and goes from there.
Right.
So I would love to get to connect with
Yay.
you. Thank you so much for having me.
Whew, that was a good word. What did y'all think about that? I shared a moment where I had my own identity crisis where I was thinking about making unsweetened tea every day for my husband. And I really didn't even like it. I didn't enjoy it. And it was such a simple act, but it revealed a much deeper pattern that I wasn't in touch with my own preferences. And Stephanie shared some similar stories like delaying motherhood because she assumed it meant giving up her dreams. And through those stories, we both realized how guilt and people pleasing often silence the voice of God. And I hope you had your own reckoning moment too. I want to do a little prayer declaration activation with you before we go. In Romans chapter 8, verse 1, it says that there's no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. Therefore, I am free of shame. We can turn this into a declaration. Come on, say it with me. Therefore, I am free of shame, and I will walk in your spirit without guilt or fear. And then put your name in. Make this really personal. I'm going to do mine, but you do yours. Heather, you are free from performance. You are led by peace, and you hear God clearly. Did you feel that? Did you say that out loud? I want you to ask yourself this week, says who? That's your challenge. Every time you feel pressured to do something, I want you to pause and check the source. Says who? And then maybe write down what God is actually saying about it instead. So let's turn this declaration and the scripture into a prayer as we close. I want you to say something like, God, please teach me to recognize your voice above guilt, above the fear or the pressure to perform. And then just keep declaring it. Declare that I am not led by guilt. I'm led by the Spirit of God. All right, warrior, I'm praying that blessings and favor will chase you down. Phew, that was a whole word, huh? Thanks for hanging out with me on the Heal with God podcast. I'm so honored to be in this Healing with Jesus season with you. If something tugged at your heart today, go grab this free 7-day mental makeover challenge at heatherobrien.net/insider. It's packed with tools to help you stop spiraling, start healing with God, and breathe a little easier. And hey, here's a quick reminder. I'm a licensed minister and not a therapist. What you get here is spiritual encouragement, not medical advice. Still, prayer is my specialty. I'll see you back here next Monday, warrior. And until then, keep listening because God is still speaking. And honey, he's got something to say to you.